Hi, welcome to Business in View. I'm Denise Nichols, and with me today is Carlyle Roberts, Director of Business at Core Systems.
Hi, Denise. Pleasure to be with you.
No, I'm really having fun with Carlyle today. A simple thing, I'm just messing up, and that is not the norm. But you know what? It's supposed to be a fun time while we're learning about business, while we're understanding each other. And therefore, we shouldn't try to be perfect, as we're not perfect in our lives, as we're not perfect in business, but we strive for perfection. So today, we're going to have a little interview with Carlyle, and he's going to tell us a little fun fact about himself.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. As I was thinking of what's a fun fact about me, I thought to myself, wait, there aren't a lot of fun facts about me, are there? But I came up with one, though. I'm a son of the region. And what I mean by that, I was born in the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my mother is Bahamian. My father is from Antigua. And I've lived in about 5 different Caribbean countries. I've lived in Bahamas, I've lived in Antigua, I've lived in Jamaica, I've lived in Trinidad, and I've lived in Barbados. So I consider myself to be a true son of the region. Fun fact.
Yes, I love it. So you can be the icon that we use as a mascot for CARICOM. Your face could go up on something and say, CARICOM.
Hey, I'm with that.
That can work. You know, you've been around the region, like you just said, so therefore you would have been exposed to different methodologies, different ways of thinking, different cultures as it relates to business. So, I mean, you can share such insight. So what can you tell us as a people, a little bit about yourself first, though, how you got to where you are, a little bit of your journey. Can you share a little of that?
Sure. I think my journey has been one of, I think it's very interesting. It's been one, I call it one of adaptability and one of flexibility. So I've been constantly adapting, and even just hearing how many places that I've lived in makes you realize that I have to have some sort of adaptability to be able to not just survive, but to thrive in these different places. Interestingly enough, I started out in technology. So I studied computer science, and that all started when I think I was about 14 years old, and my father bought me, and I'm going to date myself here, bought me this computer called the Commodore 64. And anyone watching knows a Commodore 64, it means you've dated yourself also. It was a pretty old system, and that was back in the days before they had a hard drive. So we had a floppy drive, one of those 5.25-inch floppy drives, and it could hold about, I think it was 750K of memory. Now, can you imagine 750K, then it moved to smaller drives that could hold about 1.5 meg, and that was a lot of space, a lot of information. These days, you can get a thumb drive, right? They went from 10 meg to 100 meg to 1 gig, and now I can get one this size that holds thousands of gigabytes of information. And so that was back in the day, and I fell in love with technology, having that Commodore 64. I fell in love with programming. I fell in love with solving problems with technology. And so from there, it just started a love affair where I just knew I had to be in this field. And that took me to studying at University of the West Indies. And I studied right up to, and as a matter of fact, another fun fact is I've been on all 3 campuses, 3 major campuses of the University of the West Indies, ending with my postgraduate degree in Trinidad at the St. Augustine campus, where I studied computer networks. And so from there, I went on to be a part of probably the largest telecommunications company in the region, and been there for quite a while. And my journey of flexibility and adaptability then took me from dealing with system networks to moving into sales.
Whoa.
Now, how did that link get to me? Well, it just so happened that in dealing with technology, I would have to go out sometimes with the salespeople. And interestingly enough, when they were trying to explain things, they would always turn to me. And so I would need to explain the technology in a way that could be simply understood by someone in finance, HR, or the CEO. And so I became pretty good at that. And soon enough, the bosses were like, well, can you sell these things? And I was like, I never, ever want to be in sales. I'm the guy that's in the back. My personality was more shy than networking. And so I told him I will never, ever do sales. So fast forward a few years later, and I'm head of sales. It just one thing led to the next, led to the next. But in the middle of it, here's what happened. See, I realized that the reason I didn't want to be in sales is because I didn't want to feel that feeling of rejection. I didn't want to put it out there and have someone reject me for what I was trying to offer. But in that flexibility, I was able to adapt and realize that if somebody doesn't want what you're selling, it's not you that they're rejecting.
Mm-hmm.
Once I put on that mindset, it made quite a difference. So I was able to realize that what I'm delivering for them, I'm not a snake oil salesman. I'm delivering from a position of having this knowledge about the technology as an engineer. And so that made me more interesting and genuine, interesting enough to our clients. And because of that, they were more readily accepting of what I was having to say. And if they didn't want it, then what they were rejecting was the product and not me.
But you know what what it does, Carlyle, sorry to break you there.
Yeah.
What it has created is a level of trust, because you know the product, you understand exactly how it works. You're not pulling wool over their eyes, so they can trust you as a person who understands how this technology is going to work, how this piece of equipment is going to help them. So that really created that trust element.
Exactly. You are so right. And it was from that platform that I started to build a career around understanding that as much as I love technology, for me, technology was no longer the be all and the end all.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that technology had purpose. You know, it's kind of like money. Many times we're going after money, and sometimes that's all we can see, but money is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come to realize that, then there's so many different things that you can do with it. And that's what I had to realize with technology. So my passion actually shifted.
Mm-hmm.
I always want to have to deal with technology, but now I wanted to deal with it in a sense where it could aid in something bigger, something better. And for me, being a son of the region, I wanted to find out how could this help our countries in terms of national development, in terms of bringing us to a position where we are globally competitive. And that started to become a bit more of what I wanted to focus on. And sales and marketing at the point in time was a sort of an avenue that was getting me there. And so my journey took me through sales, a bit of marketing, product development, and pretty soon to general management, you know. And my last stint in the Bahamas, because like I said, I've gotten a chance to work in different countries, you know, and in a few of those, I've had regional positions. There was one position I had where I had to speak to governments about solutions that would lead to national development. And I was responsible for 17 different countries, English-speaking countries across the Caribbean. And so I had to visit them and imagine visiting 17 different Caribbean countries. Dream job, by the way.
17 different cultures, 70 different ways of thinking, 7 different of running the country. They're all thinking differently. How do you bring your experience and your expertise to bear and help those countries move forward? You really had to be adaptable. And I really want to just let's say a little bit about the adaptability and the flexibility, because right now with the COVID scenario and all that is happening within the business environment today, the ability to adapt is really key. Right now, that is one thing that will cause any individual to move to another level, the adaptability.
It's so true. And adaptability has this base requirement of being able to think about things different. And that's one of the strengths that I believe I brought to the table.
Yes.
Because for me, I realized pretty early that I was able to see things in different ways. You know, I'm the type of person that can debate both sides of the argument. I'm the person that's able to connect dots that people wouldn't normally be able to connect. So I can take, if someone has a great idea and somebody else has some skepticism about it, I can take both sides and make them connect. So I became really good at strategic thinking, and business development. And this is what I believe, part of what I brought to the table when I sat down with ministers of government from different nations and heads of business, etc. I was able to show them of how you look at business from different points of view, being able to solve some of the most challenging things that you're looking at. So you mentioned adaptability in this current season where we are, you know, we have to see business different.
Yes.
And the fact of the matter is you should never, ever waste a crisis. Because in the middle of a crisis, there is always different levels of opportunity, right? But you have to put on a different filter in order to be able to see it. So when you take off that filter of complaining, you take off that filter of looking at what you've lost, and you put on the filter of what are the opportunities, who is winning or gaining in the midst of this, what are the related services that they may need, what are the services that someone who hasn't been winning but wants to win might need. And then there's a whole ecosystem around a crisis that just creates levels of opportunity if you're willing to see them.
Yes.
So it's about being adaptable in whatever you're looking at, whatever you're trying to do. And for me, that's been, I think, the part of the strength that I've been able to bring to the table. And I think anyone who's able to shift their view, right? Again, take off the lens of complaining or looking at the loss and start to see where's the opportunity, where's the value rather that I can bring in the midst of what's going on.
You know, I've known you, Carlyle, for quite some time, and I've always seen you as a very level-headed, keen individual who, like you said before, can process things very easily. And you can look at the situation and decipher, oh, I should do this, or you offer advice. I've seen that. You're very stable. And you when you're thinking of giving advice to those who are watching, and the fact that you have gone through the region, you were able to speak to governments, you were able to pivot yourself, move from technology into sales, general management, and the whole gamut. That speaks of an individual who's open for change. And many times we're not open for change or open to see things from another perspective. But I've seen that about you. And what can you share with our listeners so that they themselves, even when they find themselves pigeonholed, that they can see that from a different perspective and use it as a springboard to something greater?
Well, you know, over the years, I find that my philosophy of life has shifted somewhat, but it's always kept me through different seasons. And I think it's important to have a philosophy for life because it's one of those things that keeps you grounded and guided. And one that I've adopted, I once watched this commencement address by, I think, Steve Jobs. And he was speaking at Stanford. And he made this statement. He said, stay hungry, and stay foolish, stay hungry. And I kind of adapted that to a philosophy that I've looked at where, for me, it's stay humble, stay hungry, and stay honest. You know, I believe that you have to stay humble in whatever you're doing because, and I'm first and foremost a Christian, right? And I'm a Christian who's in business, not the other way around.
Yes.
And so because of that, my faith is carried, or my faith is the basis of however I do things and whatever I do. And part of that is being humble because God tells us that he hates those who are proud. He resists the pride. The proud is what it actually says. So being humble ensures that one, we're in his will. Also, there are many people who don't want to deal with someone who's puffed up and full of pride. Humility also allows you to be able to see things from different angles because you don't feel like you have all the answers. And once you realize that you don't have all the answers, then you're more open to seeing what other opportunities or whoever else could help and could assist. And so as you make that rise, then you recognize that, you know, those around you might be the same ones if you do fall, who would be right there to be able to help. So stay humble. And the other one is stay hungry. You know, there's a hunger, a passion, a desire that you have to keep with you. There's an energy that people feel when they're sitting across from you. And if you don't have any form of energy or passion, then people are less likely to be led by you. They're less likely to follow or to want whatever it is that you have. You have to be passionate about something. And you need to bring that to the table, whatever you're doing. The Bible says that anything you do, do as unto the Lord. And so when if you're a Christian, then everything you do should be done from a place of passion. And I'm not talking emotion. We have different personalities. That's not what I mean. I mean from a position of always striving for excellence in whatever it is you do. The Bible said of Jesus that he did all things well. And if we're following his example, then that should be the standard that we're going after. And the final one is stay honest. And honesty is not just not lying about a situation, but it's also not lying to yourself. It's important for you to be real with who you are, where your weaknesses are, and where your strengths lie. You see, where your weaknesses are, if you can't admit where your weaknesses are, then you will never do anything to either support them or to have them guided. And, you know, for me, I've had to look at areas where I know I have weaknesses. So if you ask me about doing operational things and doing the same thing day to day, and you know we need that in any business, but
Yes.
that's not,
Yeah.
you know, and because I can honestly admit that and be honest with myself, it means I can, one, get help where I need it and ask for help, be open
Yes.
and honest to ask for help. And the second thing I can do is set up guardrails, you know, so there are things that I have to do. I have to put things in my schedule that remind me. I have something that every hour on the hour says what time it is, and that gives me a jolt. Okay, what am I supposed to be doing now that it's 12 o'clock? You know, it just reminds me. And so there are different reminders and so many things we can do to help us stay on track. But be honest with where you are, what are your weaknesses, what are your strengths, and what do you really want, where you're being directed and guarded in life. And so for me, those three things have been a philosophy I think that has carried me. Stay humble, stay hungry, and stay honest.
Listen, that is so powerful. But as you would say, is it three H's or the three H's, however you want to pronounce it. But I
Yes.
just got the three H's from you: humble, hungry, and honest. And it is so important, we as individuals, because we must realize our frailty and the fact that we are placed here for a purpose, a greater good that we actually are aware of. And if we stay humble, hungry, and honest, that would keep us on an even keel, and we wouldn't get past ourselves and think that we're more than we ought to think of ourselves. So I'm sure the listeners are receiving so much from this. I am on a personal level receiving it. And also, I wish I was as disciplined as you are, where every hour on the hour, there's a timer going off, letting you know what you should be doing at that time. But I would try that. Maybe not every hour, but I'll try that and see how that works. Carlyle, as we're coming close to the end of our interview, because I tend to like to keep it short, but there's so much more, because I feel as though, as I use this term, I'm studying at the feet of Gamaliel, because you have such insight and because of the fact that you've been around the region, you've heard, you've seen, and so therefore there's more resident within you and you need to be heard. You must start your own show because you need to be heard. There's so much that I am hearing here and I want to hear more. And I know sometimes we may just meet and we would pray together and just have a relaxing time, but I never did hear as much as I'm hearing now as I'm interviewing you. So I'm so elated to learn more. So viewers, you have been treated to something wonderful. In fact, there's a feast before you. Try and take and eat and select what you need and pass on the video to others so that they can learn from a Carrie Coleman, a man of the region. So as we are closing now, any closing thoughts? I know you gave such nuggets, hungry, humble, and honest, but there's something else I know you can share with the listeners.
Sure. Whenever you think of business, I think it's important to see your business life as an extension of your life. So I mentioned having a philosophy in life, and I told you a little about mine.
Yes.
But I believe too often what we do is we try to compartmentalize our lives. And you want to know the interesting thing about life? However you do something is how you do something. If you are late in your personal relationships, you're probably going to be late in many of your business endeavors as well. And so when you think of how you do life, think about it from the perspective of who do I want to be? Many of us set goals, right? But what we don't realize is that in setting goals, that there is someone that you need to be in order to achieve what you're trying to achieve. And so the first thing that I try to do is set directional goals as opposed to just positional goals. You know, that goal that says, maybe I want to make $100,000 in my business this year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the directional goal might say, I want to ensure that I am delighting X number of customers every single month. And it's a directional goal that points me in the position of being able to achieve this ultimate goal that I might be looking at. And sometimes that directional goal is more important because, as every business owner knows, your first idea that you started out with in business is probably not the one that made it to be most successful. If you ask the guys at Google, they did not start with trying to create the world's largest search engine and Microsoft, etc. All of these places, they started off with an idea,
Mm-hmm.
and as they moved in a direction, they had to adapt. There it goes again.
Yes.
Be adaptable and flexible until they were versatile.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. So see, however you do business should be an extension of how you do life. Be adaptable, be flexible, be able to see things through that filter that we talked about. And if you do all of that, I think you have no choice but to succeed. And I'm rooting for you. And I'm sure we all are in this community as well.
Yes. I like that you ended on saying that part of the community, because that's really what is going to help us get past this storm, operating
Yeah.
as a community. And I just want to remind the listeners of the 3 H's: humble, hungry, and honest, and the AFB that you talk about, because it must be adaptable, you must be flexible, and you must be versatile. So you can go away with those little nuggets. And I really want to thank you, Carlyle, for being here, for taking time out of your schedule to just share what's business in view. I know it's something that I just started, and maybe small, but you know, the Bible says do not despise small beginnings. And when you come onto the show and you share your insights the way you have, I feel honored and blessed. And I'm happy to know you, not only to pick your brain, but to know you as a friend and a brother. So God bless you, bless your family, bless your business. And I know there's more to be heard about Carlyle Roberts. Can I get an amen?
Amen. Thank you so much, Denise. I wish you and your business all the blessings, and I'm so proud of what you're doing, by the way.
Thank you. Shalom. Thank you, listeners. Share the video. Until next time, God bless you.